Welcome to Electrify, the video show and podcast for electricians only, with your hosts Paul Abernathy and Jay the Basement King Grunberg. Sit back and enjoy the show. What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Electrify. My name is Paul Abernathy, your host, and with me, as always, my co-host from out in Colorado, the Basement King himself, Mr. Jay Grunberg. Mr. Grunberg, welcome as always. Boy, did the week go by quickly. Welcome. How are things? Tell me it's nice and balmy and sunny in Colorado. Because it is nice here. So
see, man, that's just not right. But
yeah.
Before I get into that, welcome everybody. Happy 2022, first stream of the new year.
Yeah, first. Well, not my first stream, but it is indeed the first Electrify of 2022. So welcome everybody. You made it through the year and made it to another episode. So tell us how things. I saw some pictures. You sent a few little, texts to me there. And so tell me, how is the nice weather in Colorado? Because I can tell you how it is on the East Coast where my family is. But you tell me, how is it in Colorado?
It's freezing, man. It's cold as you know what. I mean, it's just...
I feel for you.
No, you don't, man. You and everybody else on your friggin' social media platforms sending me 80, 70... 80, 90 degree weather, showing me the sun's out, and I go outside and I probably have about a foot of snow in the driveway, and it is cold. I mean, it's cold. So
bitter cold, huh?
Yeah, it's cold, man. I mean, you go from a warm house and you step outside, and once that wind chill hits your face, and it just freezes you up, and it's been so warm recently, and so it's just something we have to get used to. But like I told you, I was hoping it would snow, and here it is.
You know what? I don't miss it. That I can tell you, that's some of the things that you can look back and when you go, man, I miss the field. I miss out there pulling that cable and running that conduit. And then you go and you see the weather like that, and you go, yeah, no, I don't. Really, I don't miss it at all. So welcome to the stream, everybody. Willie, Seth, Robert. Robert says it's 70 degrees in San Antonio, just down south of us here. That's chilly today, so it was it's down in the lower 40s or whatnot, and it was cold this morning. But we had a couple 2 nights ago, I had to scrape the windshields. But there you go. Actually, let me tell you what. It's been a long time since I actually used my electrician's license, but it made for a good window scraper. So that's the last time I've used it for anything in a while. So I did use it to scrape the windows. So there you go. So I'm a card carrying electrician. Right. Scraped my windshields with it. But no, other than that, it was so how was your new year? Did you ring it in? Here's a question I always ask people. Were you awake at 12:01? And younger people can answer this question. The older folks are like, not. But so were you awake? Were you and Jalissa awake at 12:01? Of course, you got a baby in the house, so you probably awake anyway. But were you awake at 12:01 on New Year's Day?
Yeah, we were. We were wide awake up until about 12:05. 5 minutes after the ball dropped, we headed upstairs, turned it off. We kind of celebrated by cheersing some sparkling ice water. We were cheering some of that stuff, and the baby was up with us. She was running around having a good time because, again, the closer you get to midnight, since we were already up. So here's kind of how I'll back up a little bit. We were supposed to go to a New Year's Eve party at my son's girlfriend's house, who lives about 20 minutes away. And we were supposed to make a dessert, go over there, hang out, kind of mingle with their parents, or her parents, excuse me, and have some fun. Well, then we found out it was snowing. And so we told them, we were like, hey, we can drop Xavier off earlier in the day before it snows at about 2 o'clock. We'll come get him at 6, which we did. And by the time we took off at 6, we were leaving our house to their house. It was about 20-minute drive. And we seen about 6 or 7 cars stuck already on the side of the road. And the snow had only been coming down for 30 minutes. And it wasn't even, well, probably about an hour and a half, sorry. And it really wasn't even that bad. But again, it didn't snow for a long time. So all these drivers like suddenly forget how to drive in the snow, And so we like grabbed him, went back home, and just hung out at the house and watched the ball drop. And it was fun.
Yeah,
what about you?
So we're like that, coming from Virginia, growing up in the snow, and we always got snow. And I remember one of the very first times that we moved to Harrisonburg, Virginia, and we got caught in a 3.5-foot snowstorm. And it was is when we had opened up a little shop for my wife, and it was a grooming salon. We had it, and I was really young. It's that's probably back in 1991-ish. Anyway, it happened, and the snow had drifted overnight. We had fell asleep in there working on it, and we woke up. And the snow had drifted against the door, and we couldn't get out. So we were stuck in this little shop, this little, I guess it was probably not 20 feet by a 40-foot shop that we were finishing out, doing the electrical and doing everything in it. But we had fell asleep in there because we were working. And when we woke up, like I said, the snow had drifted, and it was up against about 6 feet up against the front door. And you couldn't get the door open because the door swung out. So I remember that. But it's so when we come out here to Texas, and you get a little bit of ice out here, people freak out, and you look at them and go, these people don't know how to drive. They wouldn't know what it's like to get snow, having to shovel off the driveway all the time. And of course, Virginia just got hammered up there where I'm from, in the area of Central Virginia and Northern Virginia. They got hammered. I-95 got shut down. Even those folks don't know how to drive, and it's better off just stay at home. But we didn't do anything. New Year's Eve, I did about like you. I was up until we were at the trailer at the lake. And I was up until about 12:05 myself after I reached over, gave the wife a kiss and said, Happy New Year. She went, that was her response to me. Happy New Year, I guess. I woke her up for that. And then I rolled over and went to sleep. That was it. But you know what? That's the first time that I've been up on New Year's in years. Usually by 8 o'clock, I'm gone. I don't, it's just another year, right? So, and they go by so quick, right? So, but that's all we did. So it was a pretty easy going. And then of course that next day we were like, okay, we're out of here, and came back home because it's starting to get cold, and we have heater, but we were like, nah, we're going to come back home. So that's all we did. Ketsoya, welcome. Chris, thank you for the donation, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for the donation, Chris.
Schwartzy's in the house. Adam is in the house. So again, thanks folks for joining us. So
yeah, Seth asked me, where did I get a foot of snow at? Seth, I live in the Centennial area right by Arapahoe High School. That's where my son goes to school. I don't know if we actually got a foot, but after, I step outside and it goes up to my ankle, maybe it was only 6 inches, but whatever. It was cold. There was a lot of snow.
Typical guy doesn't know the difference between 6 inches and a foot. What's up, Tim?
Tim, what's happening, man? Willie, what's up on the Facebook side? Thanks for joining us on that Facebook side. Same with you, Adam. Appreciate you guys, the support over there. But he said, Seth said he used a 2-gang blank to scrape off his windshield. A 2-gang blank.
There you go. We got these. We can use this electrical products for things other than electrical if we need to, right? So
try walking on iron with that weather. No, Chris, that's why I'm an electrician, brother. I don't walk on iron. I don't want that problem. Right. I don't want that issue. So couldn't even imagine it.
Tends to freeze. So just make sure you, Chris, you're tying off up there on
That's
these
right.
walks. All right, so Jay, you missed it last night. We had an exam prep. For those that follow that or join us, that was 3 hours, a little over 3 hours, maybe, that we did some exam prep on Fast Track program. And we did chapter 10, I guess 10 and some 11, and multifamily applications. Covered a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. And that was it. Most folks will have gone over onto our forum, or over onto the website, and you'll see that we have some tutorials available for the Fast Tracks Black and the red and the green. So now the green is up there, kind of a tutorial, so you can kind of see what's you're going to learn at the end of each unit. They're just real quick tutorials that kind of show you what's in the program in case you're interested. So those are up there. We launched a new mini course for those that have taken it. It's the little mini red, and it is talking about determining the number of branch circuits and receptacle outlets and lighting outlets, and kind of covers that material. So that's up there again. If you're in the membership, monthly or annual subscriber, then you get access to it. That's just another perk we've added to becoming a subscriber. So as those little courses come out, you're going to get access to them. Got one coming out here in a couple days. It's just going to be a 25 question exam type of thing, so you can test your knowledge. So we're going to be having a test your knowledge, and you're going to get graded scores and everything like that. So you'll be able to do that. And so it'll be a nice little code challenge that we're going to be putting up on there. So go check that out. That'll be in the form of a mini course as well. But other than that,
I put my affiliated link in the YouTube chat. So if you guys want to click that link and go over there and sign up for any of those programs or the subscription, it would help me out too. I get a percentage kick down from that. So come support the Basement King.
Absolutely.
We were talking the other day, and I had a couple questions. People were wondering when Kicking It with the King was coming out, and I've actually done 2 episodes, you guys. I'm just kind of working the kinks out with the Rode software and send them over to Paul so we can edit them and put some intro, outro. So I would expect them kind of towards the end of the month. And then by then I'll be able to have some additional ones too.
Once we create the entry and exit, then it'll just be popping them in, and then it's just rolling them out. So it's kind of behind the scenes, getting it all production right so that it's ready to launch, and you have it. Adam, I'm not sure I know what your question is. You're talking about the bundle in our the Fast Track bundle, which is going to be going away at the end of the month. Not going away, but it's going to be the Fast Track Orange. That one hasn't finished yet. But I think what you're asking is, so that one there, the bundle, you get access to all of our courses for. Again, that's either the 2020 or the 2017, whichever bundle you get, because we do have one that has both 2017 and 2020. So that's 10 courses. I don't know what you mean by extensions. We don't, I'm not into giving anything away. I just don't anymore. So you get access to every course for 2 years. It's not 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, and you can drag it out for the next 10 years. Once you activate the key for that 2-year course, the clock ticks, and you've got 2 years to complete all the courses if you want, right? So, so that's what you end up being able to do it that way. So, you get access to the Fast Tracks Red. Of course, we call it residential in the old program. Fast Tracks Red, Fast Tracks Blue, Fast Tracks Green, Fast Tracks Purple, Fast Tracks Yellow. So you get access to all of those. And when you say extensions, we don't extend the 2 years. 2 years is 2 years. But we extend, you can get an extension for any of the individual, any of the individual courses. So in a sense, you can get extensions, but you can't just get a bulk extensions for everything. So we don't do it that way. And so when the orange comes out, it's the same way. It's just a two-year program, right? Yep. Yeah. So yeah, you get 2 years, a 2-year program, and remember all of our new courses. And I know that's not tonight's topic, guys, but I knew people would have questions. In all of our programs, and I'll tell you some of the things that we're doing. Just so I'll throw it out there, Jay, before we get into the topic, so that we can get them out of there.
Yeah, might as well.
It's there. These are all certification programs through our company. Certifications. So again, if people ask, are they accredited for something? Absolutely not. Will they get you pre-licensing credits? Absolutely not. Are they going to get you CEU credits for your license renewal? Absolutely not. They're for your knowledge, for furthering your knowledge, and you can use them for raises, promotion, advancement, however somebody will accept them. Because our company is a corporation, and because we are now working on becoming a ICC preferred provider. So we'll be giving, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, some of our mini courses will be submitted for credits for like inspections for the ICC. Hopefully, if everything goes through and everything goes through with that, then we'll be adding that. But typically they won't count towards any license. We have licensing credits for renewal over on our website. It's the CEU link, and that takes you to the portal where you can get really low cost continuing education online. So if you're interested in that, that's already in place. That's why we're not reinventing that wheel. Yeah. It's already there. But we're working on these courses, and and if you had a chance to play with the tutorial, you'll see that they're pretty neat in how we're going to be doing that. So we're building a lot of internal small courses around that tutorial type of concept. Check those out if you're interested in them. But hopefully that answers your question, Adam. Let's see. What other questions? Was there another question? I swear I thought I saw Michael ask a question, but I don't see. Oh, there it is. Michael says, have you looked into having your classes credited so it can count towards schooling for licensing? Absolutely not. When you say licensing to get your license, that's pre-licensing credits, and you have to go through so many hoops and hurdles, like what a vocational school does. And a lot of times they require hands-on, and we don't offer any hands-on. So I can't really give any of those type of credits because if I had an academy where you came in and you actually did hands-on. Now, the exception to that might be somewhere like Colorado where they work in the field, and then you can get other online type. But we have not thought about trying to target all these states and what it would take to do all that. First of all, I don't have the manpower for it. Brittany couldn't do it. She wouldn't be interested in doing it. I don't have the time to do it. So we're just doing one thing at a time, and the ICC stuff is the next step for us. We haven't thought about doing any of that, but we do have the continuing ed for license renewal, that type of thing. So now it might be that some of your states might take the credit for something but you'd have to check with them first. But yeah, at some point maybe, Michael, we get there, but we're a way away from pre-licensing credits for us anyway. Not too much work.
Yeah, I don't think that was ever your really intent though with Electrical Code Academy. Your intent, from my understanding, was to be able to take a course, be the head front of that course, and pretty much teach people not only the code, but also how to pass exams, right? Because that is that next step in your guys' career, going from the apprentice to the licensed guy, whether it's in residential, commercial, your master's, like you've said a million times.
Well, the course
not much difference between those.
Well, the course books, the things that we use in the fast tracks would obviously work in a vocational setting. Like for residential, it has a lab work and lab stuff like that as well. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of work to get. Like you've heard me talk about it, the difference between certifications and licensing and accreditation, and there are three totally different realms. Certifications are easy. And any company can issue those if they have a guideline of what you have to do and set a parameter. And we have what in these new programs, we have a stipulation on what you have to do to achieve it. And so you have to document, and we have that. And so what we don't is going for licensure to get what's pre-licensing credits. That's a whole nother beast in itself. And I don't have the manpower to do that, unfortunately. Seth says, do you certify instructors? No, we do not. And, there's their educator out there that says they certify their instructors. I couldn't certify an instructor through us. In fact, I could do it through a CMECP program. That way I know that anybody coming out of that is a high level of knowledge, right? That type of thing. Willie asks, do you have illustrations? Most people know that I create illustrations. So I can create all of our illustrations, and they're available for, different ones that you see. The little dude here, a lot of the stuff that I do, I create all of our electrical illustrations that you see, I share. Currently right now, most people with the illustrations, you got Mike Holt has great illustrations. And they're done by a guy I used to do. His name is Michael Colbreth. And I don't know if he's around anymore, if he's retired. But he's created such a database on stuff. And then you have, my buddy who I work a lot with, Phil Simmons. And Phil works on the books that we work on together, the residential commercial. So those graphics that you see in the Fast Track program are Phil's. And we both use the same design software. And then IEI, the guy that used to work and create them, Keith Laughlin, who's no longer with IEI anymore. It's a huge loss for them, but he was one of the few. There's only about 4 of us that create. Oh, and Charles Miller, who's a great educator. He's the one that we utilize his book for our Fast Tracks program as the core. And he does illustrations, and he does the same as us. We all use Corel Draw, believe it or not. So there's a group of us that use it. I do most of my illustrations myself, which does take a massive amount of time as well. So that's another thing. And then there's some folks like Ryan who uses images that people send him and things like that. I just could never get enough images to make it worth doing it with images. It's just, I can recreate something in a graphic, to me, much easier. Plus, I don't like to rely on other people. You know what I mean? I don't like to have to go hunting out for graphics and illustrations or pictures from people and say, send me pictures and I'll use them and I'll give you credit. I don't want to do that. Be honest with you. It's hard for me to explain that as an author. But I don't want to give anybody credit for my illustrations. So I just don't do it. Okay. So, but everybody's different. I like to be an island unto myself when it comes to things like that. So I am the arbitrator of them. I am the renderer. I am the person that makes the final decision on them. And I wear all those hats, and I'm not ready to relinquish all that yet. So let's get into tonight's topic. What is tonight's topic, Jay? What are we talking about today?
Yeah, we're going to talk about bidding projects, kind of maybe software that you've once used. I know you've kind of brought them up a few times. I've used a few softwares now. I'm in the process of building an app through QuickBase that I can talk about as well. But we're just going to kind of chit chat about how we bid projects, how you bid projects when you're in the field, maybe how your brother bids projects, how I bid projects, how other people around us bid projects. It seems like I get that question a lot, and I just kind of wanted to bring it, to the forefront so we can discuss it, and maybe even people in the chat can tell us how they bid projects, whether it's maybe square footage, whether it's maybe per opening, maybe it's just per project, maybe you have to see, maybe it's time and material, maybe you plug into a software and the software does it for you. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it.
So why don't we start at a simple mom and pop? why don't we start as a simple one-man show, right?
Sure.
So
thank you, Schwartzies, for the donation.
You know,
I got that marked down.
And again, thank you, Schwartzy. I know you. Hopefully, you're feeling better. Definitely a little under the weather. So
Dizzy. Okay.
yeah. So yeah. So let's start as the one man. Just a one man. You know, what is a one guy, one truck? You know, maybe he hasn't even made it to the point where he's got a helper yet. Maybe it's just a one guy, one truck. We all been there. You know, one guy, it's it. His own truck. Maybe he's even working out of his own personal vehicle that he had put some nice magnet mounts on it, you know, and that type of thing. We all been there. And you know, I'm still always about professional, you know, put the magnet mounts, make it look good when you're out there working, you know, represent. So Jay, you've been there, right? One man?
Yeah,
one man
so
show?
my first work vehicle was a Pontiac Vibe. And I used to put in totes. So I'd get the plastic totes, and I would have one tote for like rough, one tote for trim, one tote for underground, one tote for miscellaneous. And I had a storage right outside my apartment complex, and I would stage all my totes there, and then I'd stage like maybe some flex there, some liquid type, whatever I was using, and then I would load up my stuff for the day into my Pontiac Vibe. And you know, the Pontiac Vibe has on the top of it, it has those supporting brackets that go north and south with the vehicle, you know, front to rear. Right. Well, I put some 7/8 unistrut going east to west, and I put one in the front and one in the back, and I screwed them down to the brackets that were going north and south. And that was kind of like where I put my ladders at, you know, that was my ladder rack in a sense. And you knew I was like, because you see these all the time with like painters and plumbers and stuff, but you could tell I was an electrician just basically because my ladders were tied down by NMB. Right. You know, I had like the 2 feet of NMB strung out on each corner and tied up, and so
makes the best strap, right? Just you can use it over and over again. Man. Now I had
was my first
my very first vehicle was, my dad was a car dealer, and he had this. And well, I shouldn't say that. So my first vehicle was working out of a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Hey Joe, hey Hector, welcome to the stream. Texas Reaper, welcome to the stream. Michael Stanley, if we didn't get you, welcome. So that was that, and I would jam everything up in there. My first official vehicle, my dad called me up and he said, "You need a van?" And I'm like, "Do I need a van?" Yes, I need a van. And the wife was like, "Yeah, you need a van. You need to get it out of the Jeep." And so it was a passenger van. It had windows and it had the seats, you know, normal. And I was like, well, they got to go. So we ended up ripping the seats out of it, and which is basically what you get with a cargo van without seats in it.
Right.
I ripped those out, and then on the windows we put the contact film or whatever, what do you call it? It's the color, whatever the color was of the vehicle, so it looked like the same. And then on the windows we had it lettered, and there was letters putting out there. So, okay. So
yeah, so you had the van that like the churches will buy to lug around people, you know, when they have 3 or 4 rows in the back. You had to pull out all those seats. So you manually pulled out these seats.
I got rid of the seats.
What'd you do with them?
You know what? We did something with them. I don't know if we junked them or whatever. But we junked them, and I don't know if I, you know, this is dating back, so it probably was no Craigslist back then. So I mean, I don't remember how we got rid of them, but we got rid of them. It might have been my dad had a dealership, so they might have taken them out for me before we got it. Like I said, take them out, and they just did something with them. But anyway, we did that. Put the the film that you can buy on the windows, and so that they could put the lettering on it. So all the windows had the lettering on it, and we put it on the back and covered the windows with the same color type of vinyl that the vehicle was. And that was my first one, and I thought I was in high cotton there. It was like one of the old Ford Astro vans, or one of the early ones. Boy, I thought I was something when I first got that one. And I kept that vehicle. Even as we grew, I still had that vehicle, because that was my first vehicle, first official company vehicle. And we had that. So as a small one-man show or one-woman show or whatever it is you're doing, how'd you start out doing your pricing of a job? And I'll tell you how I started out with mine, because I went to a software pretty quickly, but only because I hated the process of bidding, right? So how did you do? And we should probably qualify and say this. I don't know about Jay, but I am no bidding expert. I got paid. Okay. And I learned how to bid my way. And in order to simplify it, that's when I got a software to help me out. But I started out. How did you bid?
Yeah. So
Seth, if you're a bidding expert, Seth, then you should be making money writing a bidding software, because those are the people that are bidding experts. All right, go ahead.
I'm an expert at losing my tail end on bidding. I can tell you that. But
yeah, I was certainly no expert in bidding, but what I hated about bidding. Well, early on when I was doing bidding, it was a little different. But tell me how you first started out bidding.
Yeah, so it really wasn't even bidding how I first started out with. So I came from the commercial side, as you guys probably already know, and Paul, you know this. So I skipped all the residential. I really didn't even know what residential wiring was when it came to codes, when it came to NMB. I was more of a MC, conduit, tubing, THHN, wire pulling, and all that heavy duty stuff that you see in the commercial field. So
right.
I was making, I think, $25 an hour as
you're making the big bucks.
Yeah, I mean, I actually made, that was the lower end of my time as a journeyman before I started my company, Wired Up. But what I did was I talked to the wife, and I said, babe, I want to go in and I just want to give it a shot. I have my master's. I want to give it. She said, well, you're making 25 now. If you can make 35 an hour, let's try to do that. And so then my jobs were all T&M. If I was at a job for 5 hours, I would multiply that by 35, and that's what I would charge the customer plus any material. And I don't even think at that point I was marking up material.
Right.
Again, I kind of went in. No, I don't think I was. Now I do about a 15 to 20% markup on material if it's T&M. Again, that covers other costs and everything like that. I don't really want to get too far into 15 20% isn't too bad, but at the time when I first started, I didn't do any markup. So whatever it was, I might have rounded up, so it might have been 59.20 for the roll of cable, and I rounded up to like $60. So that's how I started.
So you didn't establish a margin that you had to have. So it sounded to me like in the beginning, like most of us, we don't understand anything to do with our burdens that we have to take care of, right? We probably start out, we're thinking, okay, I'm a one-man show or one-woman show. I don't pay workers' comp because I'm not required to, although you might. We know we have to have insurance. So we that's a burden that sometimes people forget about. And of course, all your material, I'm going to get my markup on material, and you have to know what markup on your material that you're happy with or comfortable with in your material. And that can fluctuate from the service side. My markup was much higher than it was on the for like a new construction or wiring a house or a small commercial building or whatever. That was different. Believe it or not, I got higher margins on the service work because it was there and ready to do right now, and people were willing to pay it right then. And then the scopes of the projects weren't usually as large. So you could get, as far as percentages of what you made on marketable material, it was much better when I was doing the service work than what you could get for doing the full projects, right? So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was really where that's where I started, and that was where I started. I started with T&M, and I made a pretty decent amount of money to eventually go from the Pontiac Vibe. Actually, Jalissa landed a job off of Craigslist for a company here called Coits. And Coits is a carpet cleaner restoration company who comes in, and if stuff floods, they come in and get it all fixed up, and they're pretty big shop here. Well, Harold, who no longer is around, rest his soul, he gave us a shot, and I remember this conversation where he calls me and he goes, "Hey," he goes, "This is Harold with Coits. I'm responding to your respond to my ad on Craigslist." And I was like, "All right, what's up? What can I do for you?" He goes, "Well, are you interested in the job?" And I'm like, I was out in the field, and I'm like, "Yeah. Do you think I can get get the address?" He goes, "Well, maybe I don't want to give you the address right now." And I'm just like, "Oh my goodness, what is this guy doing? Like, what are you doing here?" And so then finally, after about 15 minutes of talking to him, he sends me the address, and I go look at it like on the weekend, and it was to put in the power for electronic gates to close off where his shop is at, for all the people who are parking and leaving their
Right.
cars during the day,
Okay.
and where the vans stay at night. He wanted the gates to close off. So he wanted them to shut. So we did that, and the wife bidded that project, I think, at like 6 or 7 grand, and we ended up coming out on top. I even had pictures of her in a trench. I had to get a guy to do some digging, dig out the asphalt from the actual building out to the center of the gate where the controls were at. So she's even in the ditch digging stuff out. You know what I mean? We're laying down pipe, and we just got it done. And I think we brought home maybe, I don't know, it was probably like 4 grand or something like that. It was enough to put a big down payment on an actual van. And
Oh.
believe it or not, 7 years later, I still have that van right now
It's
out
something.
running jobs.
It's something about that first van. Like I said, I kept my first van, and it already had 90,000 miles on it. Right. Willie says cheaty family labor, dude. I used
family labor.
I used that cheap labor all the time. My wife was out in the middle of the night with me, so yeah. So
if
so
you
when
ain't cheating, Willie, you ain't trying, brother. You know the Patriots motto. Look at the Patriots. How many Super Bowls did they win? What they had the all these little things they were cheating on. Listen, we're just trying to get ahead, man. That's all. Just trying to get ahead.
All right. So it's if you ain't cheating, what is it? If you ain't, what is it? What did you say? If you ain't winning, you ain't cheating.
You ain't cheating. You ain't trying, brother.
Oh, is that what it is?
You ain't trying, man.
If you're cheating, if you ain't cheating, you ain't winning. So that's what it is.
Pretty much.
All right. So anyway, back to topic. So when I started out, I probably lost my butt many times on a bid. And one thing that I used to hate is I started getting bigger or getting more bids. It's okay to do something, but you don't start thinking about all the things that you say. You got your permits. I'm trying to think here. You got your permits. You've got if there's any rentals that you have to rent. If you don't have like a ditch witch or something, you got to think of that. And you don't want to exchange that for even. If I'm going to rent that for $50 a day, then I want to make something off of that rental, right? And I'm using it for them. So. So again, you've got your insurances, you've got, if you're doing it for yourself, again, you got to pay here's what we like to say, a livable wage. But I can tell you right now, when I started out for the first 3 or 4 years, I didn't pay myself anything. Nothing. I mean, I couldn't, I couldn't even afford, I didn't even have health insurance to be able to give my wife and, and my kid. I couldn't even do health insurance. And this is before I even had a kid. So I wasn't even thinking about Uncle Sam, right, for that type of thing. So I couldn't even hardly do that. One of the best ways to learn early on, if you're not doing so a question came up about time and material, and I'll address that. But I could never get early on people to do time and material with me for like a new home or something like that. Nobody would ever do the time and material and that type of thing.
Aaron's back at it. Thank you, Aaron.
Happy New Year to you too. Aaron, Happy New Year. Thank you very much for the donation. So for me, I couldn't do that. People didn't want to do time and material. So I had to start giving them prices. And when I started out, this was before I got the software, before I did anything, I tried to do my best to ask other contractors, friends of mine that were in business, and like, hey, what do you get? And if they weren't bidding that project right against me or something, then I would ask them, hey man, what would you charge for this? And that's how I learned early on and to develop it. And of course, I had the luxury of also having a brother that was older than me, that was a contractor, and we were in business together. So I learned early on from him how we did it. And we lost our butt a lot of times starting out because we started out with, since they wouldn't do time and material for a lot of the projects that they wanted to have done. So we ended up doing square footage method. So we would determine our value per square foot. But the way we got to it, and I'm not no means saying it's the right way, because it probably wasn't the wrong way, is that we knew what price we could do a project for. We knew down to houses how much wire we needed. How much cable, how much this, how much that. We priced we had things priced. We priced our stuff out. So we knew, take the labor part out for now. We knew what our material was to do it. And of course you build in a little bit of a fudge factor, for 15% or 10% for, oops, I forgot this or that. So that's the way we started. We knew what it would cost us in material for a specific size house. Now this didn't go to crap until I started doing the $1 million, the big homes. But I had a software by then. So it started out that way. So we probably lost our butt on the first couple homes that we did, buildings, because we probably got the bid and we probably left a lot of money laying on the table, because we would do it based on, we knew the cost of material, which can fluctuate, as you know. And so we would base it on that. And then we knew what we felt comfortable to cover our burdens, what we would have. Okay. The car insurances or anything like that. And so that's what we would put on top of it. But we had to make sure we made the material, and we would mark up all of our material. And if I can remember right, I'm thinking back then, I think we tried to get as much 15 to 20% of our material markup, if we could, on new work. And so it always, so that's what we would do. And once we did a house or we did a building and everything was done and we made money, then that's how we started establishing what we wanted to do for a per square foot basis. Now, the only time that screws you is on smaller houses. I mean, obviously, if it's a lot of square footage, because you know what? A 2,500 square foot house typically in our world typically has the same size service as a 1,500 square foot house. I mean, we're going to put a 200 in, right? Not even going to haggle with it. And sometimes even a 150, it costs you more than a 200, depending on supply and demand, or what you can get your hands on, right? So, once we established, and to us, we knew how much we could do a 1,500 square foot house, a 2,000, a 2,500, a 3,000, a 3,500. Once we established those out, then we could do a square footage method, and we would have break-offs depending on the size. So if our pricing, if a house was over 3,000 square feet, this is what it was per square foot. If the house was over 1,200 square feet, this is what it was for, and so once we established that, then we were able to use and be okay with the square footage method. And basically all we took was what we knew we had to have for that house. for that size. And then we simply divided that by the square footage in order to get a value per square foot. And then we used that. And that's what we did. We did that for years. And we did not do what my brother does today. He does the method that you use. He typically will do, per outlet, right? Receptacle outlet, yep. Switch outlet, lighting outlet. He charged $125 per recess extra, on top of. So, I mean, he has his, the way they do it, right? But back in the day, we didn't start that way. We started out with trying to establish a breaking point for square footage. But it was only after we knew what we were comfortable with making on a job. So we had to know our burden, and we didn't have near the burden, right, today. I mean, then as we do today, right?
Right.
We had, we have less burdens back then. But that's what we did to start out with. And it worked okay. Do I think we've got every project? No. Do I think we probably left some money on the table? Probably. But we were happy. So I did that with my brother we did that way for a while. And then he started migrating and doing it by the outlet. And basically it was, what we would do is, the problem with that is you have to know how many outlets get an idea. If somebody wants a price up front, then I would look at the job and we bid it off of the plan. But a lot of times the dwellings didn't have drawings. So we'd have to sit down and lay it out based on, let's say, spec, and draw it out and come up. And there's a little fudge factor. Maybe you miss a box, not miss it in the install, but miss it when you're pricing. But we build a fudge factor in there, right? So if we added up and we had 65 receptacle outlets, and that was a certain price per receptacle outlet, then we had all the switches. And if it was a 3-pole switch, a three gang switch, then that was 3 outlets, right? Okay, so we did it by that. So it's by the opening. So it didn't matter whether it was a receptacle or it didn't matter whether it was a switch. It was by the opening. And once we established that price, it got a little easier. But again, it was so much easier if somebody wants a price quickly. The square footage per square footage is easy, right? Because you can go. Somebody says, "Hey, man, how much to wire my 3,500 square foot house?" Oh, well, this is what we get per square foot. Boom, 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 boom. Time, 30. That's your price. And as long as you knew you were going to make money, and you were fine the bigger the house. When the houses got smaller, then that was a problem. Right. So
I never was a big
square footage is not the best way to price. That's for sure. So
no, I think with square footage too is you kind of, what I've learned from where I started doing time and material to, hiring guys to now having, was it 6 guys out in the field, warehouse manager, 7 guys out in the field, warehouse manager, myself, and the office staff, is that the square footage, you're kind of given a rough estimate in a way. Some people say, yeah, I do square footage, and then I notate on the bottom that is only for stuff per the code. So meaning like in a bedroom, you don't even have to put a luminaire in the ceiling, or, you're just doing basic per code, install. And then anything else would be an additional cost. And I never really liked that. Some basement companies that I work for and remodel companies, they will do square footage for the customer. And then they'll come back to me and ask me what my pricing is. And I do per opening. And the reason why I do per opening is because then to me, apples are apples, oranges are oranges. If you add in a kitchen, you add a dish or anywhere, dishwasher, disposal, maybe a touch sink, maybe you have 2 dishwashers and 2 disposals, one in the island and one, on the countertops against the, exterior wall or something. Now, if you do square footage, you're kind of not taking in consideration those add-ons, those extra features inside these kitchens and stuff. So for me, I do it per opening, per device, per everything. And I do a demo charge if there's demo. I always have one demo charge at least. If I'm doing a panel maybe through a garage and I have to do tubing or piping, I'll kind of do a pipe charge for that. Um, and I always try to address things on the front end as well. So I'm not big on going, oh yeah, we can do this for the low. I can do this for a very low price, and then come back and go, all right, well, you're gonna get a change order for this, that. Oh yeah, this, that. And they go, where the heck was all this stuff, in the beginning? Why didn't you say anything?
Right.
I'm not about that. I'm about putting all the pricing, I'm about laying it all out on the front end, getting anything and everything we can on that front end portion of it to where if something does change, it's most likely because of the homeowner themselves wanting something changed, or maybe the low voltage guys came in and they need a few more receptacles for the subwoofers or their AV system, or just the simple stuff, right? It's not a huge mind-blowing cost of thousands of dollars. It'd be pretty simple on what they want.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
like that method.
Yeah, I was trying to remember some of that. I was trying to remember what, I can't remember what at that time our square footage was, but I'm going to throw it out there and say back when we were doing it, it was like $4.25 a square foot or something along that back then. So if I'm trying to figure if that sounds right, so if it was typical 1,500 square foot, yeah. So, well, we didn't do any of that small. So 2,500 square foot. Yeah.
So while you're doing that, Aaron asked, are recessed lights old or new in modern homes? I'm not an electrician, just wondering. The recessed cans are still there, whether you use the actual hi hat, the bigger recessed can that actually goes into the floor joist, opposed to like we use the wafer style now that are very
Right.
slim design that you can use. So I think they've upgraded the recessed cans, but as far as the older style ones, I don't use them anymore, Brohami. I use the wafer ones that are a lot slicker, slimmer. I can put them in areas that other recessed cans can't go, because the actual older style recessed cans, even though they're 6 inch, the housing on them are probably about 7.5, 8 inches. So you have to have a spot that you can fit that 8 inch round circular dome, if you say like a hi hat that goes pretty high up, maybe 8 inches for the deep ones, and maybe 5 inches on the shorter ones. So you still have to have that clearance above and on the sides. Whereas in the wafers, they're very slim designed fixture that you can even put right up against a stud. As long as you can get the J box to the left or right of the stud without damaging any of the cables, you're good to go. So
yeah, recesses aren't new. They've been around a long time. It's just technology now for these luminaires that we have today with the LED and whatnot, and the less heat they generate and things like that. So we don't have to. I mean, with the old recess cans, you got whether you got to worry about their IC rated cans in contact or separated from insulation and how you put them in there. Now, boy, you just pop these things in there. They're just low to no clearance on these bad boys. But it's we have recess cans in our house. But I've been doing recess cans since all the way back when I started 30 years ago. So now back to the pricing.
With the
go ahead, Jay. No, go ahead. Finish.
Well, I was gonna say with the can style that go, the hi hats that have the screw in bulbs, lamps, those are tricky too, because if you get you're limited. I'm not really tricky. I'm sorry, they're pretty simple. But when you put that 2700 Kelvin lamp, and that's the temperature that you're going to get off of these bulbs,
it's more of a soft, like an incandescent at that level, right?
Yeah, like a soft, warm, or you can go 3000, 35. You're restricted.
It's harder
to that,
light as you go up, but
that lamp, you're restricted to what that lamp rating is. With these wafers, you can go anywhere from 27, 3000, 35, 4, or 5000. So they have a selector switch on the actual J box that you can change the temperature on the light, meaning it can go from a really soft white
So it kind of replicates the
bright.
replicates the old, incandescent look, tones, the skin tones, or it can go up to, the hard,
bright, like
cool.
office.
They call it cool light. Yeah, that type of thing.
Yeah, the cool kind of blue looking light.
Yeah,
And then again, you might want that
says
in your
I was ahead of the game.
See your muscles growing. I don't know.
It was ahead of the game. Now, I think they were around a lot longer before me. There's recess cans. Some of those date back, but they just gotten better today than they were back then. That's for sure, and that type of thing. So, but we're talking about the bidding again. I was remembering we were lucky if we get 425. That is nowhere near what we would get. So I think it was probably more like $3 and a quarter, $3.50 a square foot. At that time. So, we were getting, anywhere between $8,000 to $9,000 to $10,000, for the full thing, but it might even been less than that because that even seems extreme all the way back when we started. And again, we probably left a lot of money on the table, but sometimes it'd be 2 and a quarter, 275. What you have to do is determine what you can make money at for certain square footages, because you can't have one that's set in stone. It's going to have to revolve, right? It has to move, because I could not do the same as I do for a 4,000 square foot home. I could not do that same value per square foot for a 1,200 square foot home. It'd be nice, but you're not, because again, you're not gonna get that kind of money for a 4,000 square foot home. That kind of difference, but you got to get used to it, but that's one way to do it. And I left that way pretty quickly. So my brother migrated towards the per outlet, like what Jay does. You still have to know what the amount of money that you want to get per outlet. So you're going to have to figure that out. Now, for me, I ended up moving into software. So as I probably told people before, I ended up moving into a Connest software. And Connest software pulled pricing off of the index, so it's local pricing. So it knew that was, or I would have to key it in, right? And I would key in the values for my local market, so I knew what the price is. So you had to maintain it. Now they can get them automatic, or you buy this thing and it just constantly keeps you. But they're the national pricing, and you got to remember that your area might not be the same as national pricing. So you have to alter it and you have to adjust it, right? So yeah, there you go, net pricer. And so we had that when it had it back when I think there was another one way back then that we used when Connest was out, and it, it would measure, it would give you links, and you put in the different links, and you put in the prices for your NMB and what you had to have, pricing of your NMB. So it knew what it was, and you could put in there. So I would have in there profit. So on that project, I would already know what my profit was going to be. And I was trying to look and see if I had any old stuff here, but I don't. So you decide what your profit is. Most people, they're lucky if they're going to make 10% or even 15% profit on a job. If you're a real big company, believe it or not, you don't make 10 and 15%. You might make 5%, but you're going on volume, and 5% on really big projects is pretty good. It's not so much on a small project. But you want to make sure that you're covering any of your overhead. Your overhead's going to be all of the things that are considered burden. So your insurances and your licensing fees, your permits, right? All of those things you have to make sure you're taking care of. Then you're going to bring in your material, and you're not giving this stuff away, right? So, those types. So again, it's different. And so different areas of the country can be different for your area. So there's no one way that's best for everybody. It's different all over the place. I will tell you, one of the best, we'll get into some more details on the bidding pieces, but one of the best softwares that I've ever used when it came to bidding, and I got to know the guy, and it is, first of all, it's a fraction of the cost of the things like the McCormick's and all the other ones. But the guy's a bona fide expert, and he's written books on it, and he came up with this software. And you go check it out. Google it. It's called Best Bid Hybrid Pro. I was going to do a bunch of videos with him on this software and show people how to use this software because I have the software. And if I had had this software years ago, it's got a residential module. It's got a counter. You take a picture of a blueprint, and I'm sure probably all do this by now. It comes in the software, and you just click on it, and it adds everything up. You draw the distance. It adds everything up and puts it in a nice format and comes out with the price and all you did. I've had the other ones, and Connest was a little bit of a pain in the butt because they always wanted to stack on modules. You got to buy this, you got to buy that, you got to buy this, you got to buy. Oh, you need to do this. Oh, you want to do a box count? You got to do this. You got to have a clicker. And I used to do it by hand. You know, the little clickers, click, 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 and then write the numbers down. When you used to do a takeoff on your own, so you count every little thing. I'm trying to, okay, well, I'm not going to count staples, so I already just figure in there. What is the box of 1,000 staples? How many staples do I need? Well, I can probably do a box of 1,000 will cover an average size house, right? But if y'all get a chance to Google it and look it up, it's Best Bid Hybrid Pro. And if you're a contractor, I think it's like, no, you see, Seth, I'm not going to count staples on a whole when I used to do when I did multi-million-dollar home, I'm not going to try to count a staple every 4.5 feet. And I'm just buying staples. So when you say don't count staples,
you just count up the 100 count or
I just get the buckets, you know. Yeah. And I would, if it's a big bucket, I'm breaking that over multiple projects. So, you know, I just figure a price and find out what's my bucket going to cost. You know, if I've charged that to somebody's job and now I've got a bucket that's still half full that I can use on this, then I'm going to come out okay. But I'm not counting staples. Now, in my software, it would count straps. So that if I was doing something with EMT or whatnot, it considered me following code, then it would automatically count up the straps because within 3 feet of the box, and then it could go up to 10 feet. It would count couplings and the distance, and it would count all that. But I never, you know, I wasn't going to, you know, in residential, I don't see how it's even feasible to count staples, that type of thing. But at any, you know, I just buy them by the box and make sure that everybody, you know, that I've got a big bucket of them, and ultimately I'm charging everybody for that bucket. Okay. So it's figured in my price. But at the end of the day, Best Bid, if I'd have had Best Bid Hybrid Pro, that has a module on there that allows you to take a snapshot of the blueprint and it pulls it into it, and you can take it off right off the blueprint, and you click on it and it, you know, does everything. Okay. For it. So, I don't know. You must be an expert, Seth. If you're actually know all of how the non-metallic sheath cable that you're going to run inside of a single family dwelling or a multifamily, if you actually know all of it, then you are indeed an expert, my friend. And congratulations, because I couldn't know that. Home runs, I could. But when it came to the room, I'm just measuring around the rooms, but I'm not sure, you know, whether I got to go up the studs and over and down. I'm not going to try to count a staple every, you know what I mean? That type of thing. I added it in there. I put extra in there to cover me when it came to staples, trust me. Because I used to buy the big buckets, and I probably charged for that bucket on 3 jobs. So everybody paid for that bucket. So I made money off the bucket. That's probably what I did, because I won't go lose my ass on no bucket of staples. That's for sure. But yeah, we probably did lose our, you know, we probably did lose when we go in. You hate giving a bid to somebody and you don't get it, and you're thinking, was that too high? Was that too low? When I went to the software, that is when my jobs, I started getting more jobs, and then I started thinking, well, crap, I'm too cheap. And now my prices, I'm getting too minute with my pricing in this software. And so I started playing with the amount of margin, the profits. Okay. That type of thing. And so if I was at 10% profit margin on a job, the next one I would do the same thing, same software, same everything. But then I would bump up and have the software issue something at a 12% margin. And I ended up getting that job. and I was still okay. I made my margin. I made what I wanted, but then I would drive it, and I was the owner, so I could do what I wanted. And then the next one would be 15% margin. And then if I didn't get that job, then I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? That's how I had to do it. I was by no means an expert at bidding. And then of course you get your contractors that really never wanted a bid, right? Yeah. I mean, I had when I was doing those really nice homes, that guy, he didn't even, before it got nasty in 2007 or something like that, before it got nasty, the economy started going away wonky there the first time. He wouldn't even ask for a bid. We were doing all his homes and he was like, just do it. You'll take care of me. You'll take care of me. And I love that, not having to bid, priceless, right?
Yeah.
Because
those are the perfect ones. Or you get the ones that they'll continuously to send you projects and you bid on them, and after about 3 or 4 and you don't get them, they're just using your numbers to compare with other people and go, well, look here, man, I got this guy over here who's in the $6,000 area, this guy who's in the $7,000 area, you're in the 9,000. Can you come down to one of these lower areas, or what else? I got about $1 million work after this, right? I mean,
they always say that,
do me the
right?
solid, come down, and then that's like the freaking sign of get the heck out of there, drop that guy, man, let him go to the next one, because I've heard that from many contractors. But I mean, I now going into 2022 this year, I'm trying to be more aware of what supply houses are having cost on what items and where are my big ticket items. So for me, it was the templates for those wafers for the rough ends. So those little small, little thin brackets, metal brackets. One supply house sells them for $650. One supply house sells them for $550. I'm trying to get them down into the fours because every job I have is 20 to 30 of them.
So we did that. We did that. So good point. I did that too. So I could get better at what my costs were for bidding. We actually had a company that we were buying from, and I don't even know if they're in existence anymore. They were out of Florida called, I want to think they were, if my brother was on here, he would know, Sundance or something. And I could buy GFCIs. I could buy nail up boxes. I could buy staples. I could buy, what else did we used to buy? Oh, recess cans. I mean, cheap. I mean, listed, but cheap. We could buy all of those and they would be delivered. And it was talking about, a price is crazy. Like they would do a recess can with the lamp, with the trim, all one price. And if we were doing, volume of these just, spec houses, not necessarily the big expensive houses because the owners want to pick everything. But when you're doing all those subdivision houses, like Adam's saying, if you can get a good deal in a subdivision, you're still going to make money, then you're going to get more of them, right? That type of thing. So man, we'd buy those in bulk, and man, they just come in on a truck. And we used to buy the nail up boxes. I think we used to buy, because you get the cartons. We used to buy those things and just carton, box after box at like 100 in a box, box. You're going to use them, right? You're going to use them. So we would bite the bullet, and that's hard to do when you're starting out. But when we got established pretty good, we were buying that way, and that's the only way you could save money on those little items like that. So
yeah, you have to buy them in bulk. I remember when the only time I did track homes for Dream Finders in Longmont, we were providing the exhaust fans for the mechanical guys to install. So in every bathroom, we would provide that little $10 exhaust fan. Well, when you're doing X amount of units, you go, I went to Home Depot because the common supply house would sell them for like $15. Well, if I did, 50 or 100 with Home Depot, they'd knock them down to $8 or whatever. Well, when you're doing, 500 of those, it really cuts costs. The biggest thing though is when you do stuff in bulk that I have a problem with, or that I struggle with, is when you do it in bulk, whether it's Home Depot or a supply house, I'm on a 30-day, I don't know if they call it net pay,
Yeah,
whatever. I'm on a 30-day
net 30.
program,
Yeah, net
net
30.
30, where I have to pay these guys within 30 days. Well, if I'm dropping big money on, cable or exhaust fans or,
Your project could
wafers, whatever it
your
is.
project could last months. So,
Oh, no doubt. Well, I mean, it could last up to years, and
mhm.
then you got to find a place to store this stuff at. So now I got to get a Connex or whatever on site. So again, it's just difficult to try to buy things in bulk when you're a small contractor, especially when
Oh yeah.
I haven't looked into having an investor, and I probably never will, because I like to, kind of like yourself, how you run ECA. I run wired up with the wife, and that's it. I don't want anybody
Yeah.
else's hands in the cookie
I
jar. You
don't
know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't like again. I don't like to be dependent on somebody else.
Yeah.
At first when you started, you're dependent on the bank. I remember that my dad gave me my first loan ever. I needed $5,000 for equipment, and my mom, my mom looked at me and went, "Pfft." She said, boy, you go through things. You 1 minute you're doing this, 1 minute you're doing that. You can't stay straight on anything for any long. I ain't giving you $5,000. And then, God bless my mom, because my dad had walked in and he went, here you go, and gives me a check, and he says, you'll pay me back. And sure enough, 6 months to the day, I paid him back. And so again, I like to think that was a hand up, not a handout, because I made sure that I did that. But no, I don't go to the bank for nothing. I mean, I don't want to. I loathe using debit cards. I use credit cards, everything, because you can protect a credit card. You can't protect a debit card. Debit cards
Sure.
are nasty. You have a problem. It's so hard to contest anything with a debit card. With a credit card, you got some protection there. Plus, you're building credit, which you don't get from a debit card. And if you got one that has cash back, you can get a little cash back on that as well. So
Yep.
that type of thing. So
Exactly.
but
Now,
yes,
this is off topic. Or go ahead.
no, go ahead.
This is off topic, man, but big shout out to my kiddo. I don't know if you don't know my son, he's 15 and a half, sophomore at Arapahoe. He just went in and applied for his first job, and he landed the spot. He has an orientation at the Freddy's steak burger place down the road, man, just opened up. He went in today
Sweet.
with his resume that we built for him. So
Awesome.
and he talked to the lady. Mom and I stayed out in the car with the baby sister, and we watched him go in. We watched him sit down at the counter with the lady, interact with her for about 20-25 minutes. He pulled out the proper information, went into the back, kind of got the orientation information, and he just walked out, grinning to
Got
grin.
the
So
grin on him. First job,
man,
first
bro, he
official
was
job.
he was so happy, man. And let me tell you something, man. I'm proud of you, Xavier. If
That's
you're watching,
awesome.
I'm proud of you. And just for everybody out there, that was a good moment. That was a good dad
Absolutely.
son moment and good mom
Yep.
son moment, to where yeah, free food for you now, right, Adam?
All
Free
right, don't get
custard
him.
for me.
Look,
So
Adam, let's not get him fired in the first week, okay? Giving away
right,
free
that's
food, all
right.
right? And be fired,
So
just like I work for Encore, and Jay seems to think that I'm going to extend him some great deals on non-metallic sheath cable. Are you crazy? We're making record profits off that stuff. Do you think we're going to be giving that away? Heck no, we're not. So, you know what? That's another question, because you got your son and I got my son, and people have asked. You know, some people do generational, go into the trade or go into whatever their whatever son did. Seth, I
thanks,
do.
Sam, for the donation.
I work for Encore Wire Corporation. I'm a head of their codes and standards, so I oversee that company's code division, as well as owning ECA. So during the day, that's my day job. The moment I get off, I spend half the night teaching people and doing seminars and training for private corporations as well. Create my graphics, create the courses, grade the courses, do the podcasts, do the videos. I then go to work in the morning and do that for them, and then come home and spend half the night doing that again. I've been doing that for quite a few years. Before I went to Encore, I worked for NEMA, the National Electrical Manufacturers Association. I was the head of their codes and standards division there. Prior to that, because of history, yeah, we're going to have actual show. I'm going to actually be doing something for Encore on copper clad aluminum. It hasn't affected us, but it's some of the small players it might affect, but us and Southwire really doesn't affect. But some of the smaller players, the service wires and people like that, the Aceros and the, I guess the CMEs, the copper clad aluminum might hurt them. But for us larger folks now, Encore Wire, believe it or not, even though it's not as big as Southwire, that's because we don't make tools. We don't make pullers, tuggers. We don't make all that stuff. We don't make medium voltage. We don't make high voltage. But when it comes to building wire, pound for pound, nobody makes more wire than Encore Wire. Those machines are running. We have something like 70 or 80 MC cable machines that run 24/7. We have, it's an interesting, one day, some folks ever want, come in, and I occasionally give tours. It's been a little bit difficult with COVID, where they get a special tour by me where they get to go out and I take you right up to the copper smelting vertical melter. And you get to see what it looks like from birth to the final product. It's like the Disneyland for wire, because we make everything there: MC cable, AC cable, THHN, THWN-2, XHHW-2, RHH, RHW-2, PV wire. We make tray cable. I have 5 patents that are mine with the company. The hybrid products is my patent. The MC LED, y'all probably heard about it from other companies. AFC has one, Southwire has one with the 0 to 10 volt cable in there. That's my patent. My name is on that, and I have multiple patents on that. Hybrid, I have a patent on that. And the next thing that people ask is, do I get any money from these patents? That's part of the deal when you work for a corporation. You get zippo, zero, nada, nothing. I'm just blessed enough to get the nice paycheck that I get and the bonuses, because Encore Wire does treat us well, and I'm not complaining at all. Okay. Answer to that, Willie, do I think that people should be using anti-short? Yes, if it's AC cable. If it's MC cable, you're wasting your time. It's not necessary. It doesn't do any good. The listing of the fitting is designed in a specific way that the conductors won't come in contact with the sharp edges if you do it right and you use a listed fitting. You don't need the anti-short. If somebody wants to use it, knock themselves out. And we'll give you some. And I'm trying to convince Encore to not give them anymore. Right? But at any rate, let's see. Hold on for a second.
Yeah, I think back to what you were saying about the
yes,
generations.
Yes, Jay.
Yeah, yes. I think so too.
Yes, no, I know.
But back to the generations with our sons and stuff. I think you were going down a place before you jumped on the Encore.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Wagon, bring you back in.
Yeah.
What were you gonna ask?
No, me going through the contracting and being fairly decently known in the industry for years, teaching all over before I've kind of stopped COVID kind of stopped the seminar trail where I was doing stages and everywhere teaching. But when you're writing the books and doing the book things and growing up, and your son coming out there, and I started the requirements for continuing education in the state of Virginia way back when, kind of started that train rolling. I did it selfishly. I did it because I wanted to train people, but 2, I saw it as a great income. And so I helped write the requirements that were very strict at the time. And for about a year and a half, I was the only one teaching it. And so I was doing pretty well teaching all over the state and getting people's credits. But my son would come to these events and come to this, and never ever showed an interest in electrical. And he did show an interest in always making little comments about when we get in an argument, he's saying stuff like, I will never be able to, I would never be able to live up to you or whatever like that. And I'm like, who are you trying to live up to me? Who am I? And then when I went and I got my degree in engineering and did everything like that, he never once did he show an interest in wanting to do electrical work, ever. And some people found that odd, that you would grow up and be around it. And it's all I've lived and breathed for my whole life. Won the National VICA contest back when it was a scholastic within the vocational system. I've always been doing it. Never once did he show an interest in it. So people ask that all the time. And for example, for your son, he doesn't show any interest in it. Or maybe we project that it isn't the easiest industry in the world. Maybe they're like, that generation is like, or like, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, so with Xavier, I kind of forced it on him, probably more than what he wanted. And
Right.
for me, I'm a very quick, fast-paced individual. So when I ask you to do something, especially when I'm paying you to do it, I want you to do it pretty fast and quick. And he kind of just, beats, drums to or runs to the own beat of his own drum, whatever you say that,
Sure.
like pretty much
Yeah.
he runs at his own pace. He does what
Right.
he wants to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just for me, I could feel myself kind of having um putting pressure on him going, hey, you could be this, you could do what I'm doing, you could do this, you could do that, and kind of beating him down and being harder on him. And once I let that go, and it sucks for him because he was very young age. He still is. He's only 15 and a half.
Yeah. So it's still
He's been
young.
out in the field with me though. Like I've taught him how to make up boxes. He's ran cable for me. He's stapled up some cable going down. I mean, he's done the pretty much basic stuff you can do, clean up, sweep, whatever.
Yeah.
But I
Just
just
not for
I
him.
I had to pull back a little bit. I didn't want that. I didn't want that relationship with him. And as I seen in the 7 years, 8 years of being in business and coming across talking to guys who their sons are their lead guy or their sons are their way of passing on the business. And
Right.
it's a crappy relationship sometimes, bro. Like it's
Yeah.
bad. Like,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
I don't want
Seth,
that.
Seth is, said he's third generation. Yeah. So some people, it works for them. It's just some that they just don't, and of course I will also say that when I came out of school, I wanted to make money. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when I
It
came out
doesn't.
of the vocational school approached me to take over for my mentor because he was like a second dad to me. And I looked at him and I said, "What do you get paid an hour?" His name was Bob Barrett. He's in the Virginia Hall of Fame for educational vocational schools. And he told me what he got paid. And I looked at him and I went, and at that time, you're not thinking about, I hadn't gotten that thing about teaching people, other people, right? And so I was like, he told me what he got paid. And I was like, really? Now, maybe that was pretty good back then. So we're talking back in the late 80s, right? And I think if I can remember right, he was saying he was back in the 80s, he was making like 50,000, even back then, 48,000, which is probably pretty darn good back then. But me, I was thinking way different than that. And so I was like, no, I'm not interested. I'm not in, I'm not interested in that. I'm going out and make some money. And me and my brother started our company and we're making money.
That's right.
Funny part is I probably could have done that. And for the first 4 or 5 years, I probably would have made a lot. I would have guaranteed made more money teaching at that school than I made trying to build up our career as a contractor. And so it just didn't click right away for that, even though we were well known in the area and we did really high quality work. Sometimes we were over anal in our work and that suffered in the profit area. Right. So
Yeah, that have for my kiddo though. One more thing before I get off this topic is if he ever does come work for Wired Up, I would put him with. I don't install much anymore, you guys, but I would put
mhm,
him with someone else. I think he would, he'd be 16 or older where he can work and he'd drive to the job site, have his own tools. I'd put him with another electrician though, like another crew lead, someone who is a licensed guy, someone who could train him, because I just think he would absorb a lot more from them and they
yeah,
would be a little bit more acceptable on his
yeah,
work than I would be. I'm very critical and I don't want to lose the relationship that I have with him now to
yeah.
try to
Don't
make him something that maybe he has no interest in. So
yeah. Don't
you
don't
know
do that because I have that problem. Right. I don't have that relationship with my son. I was tough. I was hard to work with, especially when I was younger. And I was into the code thing big. I was the ego was just as big as everything, and
yeah.
so
Yeah.
he'd have to be involved in that. But I think Adam brought up a great point. because I did well in my industry, I was able to provide for him things that, they take for granted, the computers and the games and all that type of stuff. And I think that the younger culture, probably at that time, now growing up, had all the things that I didn't, and I just wanted to get out and work. So that's harder, and that's a reason why we do have a labor shortage. I talked to a guy the other day out at the lake. He came over to our lot, and he knew me from somewhere. He knew I was had electrical training, and he knew who I was. I don't know if maybe they used my stuff in their training. Anyway, he made his way over to and said, "Hey, I wanted to introduce myself to you. And I said, "Well, my name's Paul." He said, "I know who you are." And he said, "I wanted to introduce myself to you." And I said, "Great." He said, "Oh, I know why too, because they do work at our facility. They're a big company, but they do work at our facility at Encore." And he said, "We've got another project coming up, and we need 126 electricians."
Oh my goodness!
And he said, "I can't find any." And I'm like, "That's the problem." I mean, today we're pushing again, and Mike Rowe has done some great stuff for that. I'm familiar with Mike Rowe, Dirty Jobs, pushing the fact that when I went through school, it was just at the time where they were starting to push kids to college. I made a choice to go after I got out of school. I went back, and my wife had to work our kennels and all that to help pay for me to do all that. But I think, Seth, there isn't 126. There are obviously none in this area that they can hire, because he was like, "I need this many electricians for this new project coming up." And it was a big commercial project, and he can't find them, And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what to tell you." But back in the day, they're pushing people to go to, going to. Hold on, I gotta ban somebody here. Back in, he's like, "Okay, well, what do I do? Where do I find the labor?" Well, you can't find the labor. They're not out there. And if they aren't, they're not skilled labor. Right.
Yeah.
And the problem with, Willie, I know there's groups, but he needs them here. He needs them right here, right now, where he's at. And they're trying to find him. So unless people want to relocate, they're not going to go hunting for him. So I'm sure he's trying. I don't know what their HR, they're a big company. I think he said their electrical company did 400 million last year or whatever it is. So, I mean, they're no little lightweight company, and he's one of their managers. But I don't know what to tell him. Like, people are not being pushed. Well, back in the day, they were pushing us to go to school. And I was like, "No, I'm gonna be an electrician. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna own my own company." Right? So, and I'm sure he's posting everywhere. There's a company that's $400 million that they make each year. I'm sure he's got an HR department. I'm sure they're on LinkedIn. I'm sure they're marketing everywhere, and they still can't get enough applicants. So I am pretty sure he's not a mom and pop. And he's not doing it. I'm sure it's their HR that's doing it. And he's saying they just can't fill the spots. And again, we have a labor shortage, and it's trade labor, skilled labor is a shortage, because again, people are pushing people to go through and go to get the. I remember that my school that I went to had a well-known electrical program in the state of Virginia. They made a decision to cut the electrical program. It was probably like 8-9 years after I left. Cut the electrical program in order to start giving you smaller pieces of electrical, building, plumbing, mechanical, all a part of a curriculum, because they wanted the people to get a construction management degree. It's like we needed a whole bunch of construction management degrees running around out there rather than the trade. And so, so that's what that school went to. It killed a great program that was electrical, which was, again, when I did it, it was 2 full years. And that was going 5 days a week, all day, because I was in high school, and I was able to go to early morning to get my math and my science and American history done early in the morning, so that I could leave and spend all day at vocational school for 2 days. And so I had to do that. So, I tell you, we're the work is coming. I do the Construct Connect stuff for Encore research and stuff that we do for specifications and everything. And the thing shows that, believe it or not, no matter what happens in the economy, and you've seen it now with the prices, it's still going to be going up for the next couple of years. And prices are going to go up there with it. I get it, because now we've set the mark. You're never going to see NMB as cheap as it was a year and a half ago. You're never going to see it again, folks. It doesn't matter what the cost of copper is. Even though that's more like a commodity, the manufacturers are never, ever, ever going to drop it back down, because once you set the bar, then it like moves that notch up a little bit and you don't go backwards. We don't go backwards. Okay. We always go forwards. So you're not going to see that. Anyway, Seth, the tip thing is the link at the top of the screen. That's the place to do it, unless you're on something like YouTube, and then you can just click the little button. It looks like a symbol.
Yeah, come on, Seth Bidmaster, throw in a little bit of your profit. Just factor it in there. That's that fluff money. Just go down a couple hundo.
Hey, I gotta get some staples. Throw it in there. Throw me some in there. What is Rombo?
Staples. Rombo says
Rombo's in the house.
If I wasn't tied down with plenty of work, I'd travel to work when the pay is right. And you know what? I would say,
oh yeah,
I've done that, man. I've done it. And it's a risk and reward, right? Because if you're out of town, you're out of state, you're away from your family. So you're risking spending time with your family for the reward of higher pay.
Yeah.
How long does that last? Is it short period? Is it long period? Is it, I'm not asking you, Paul. I'm just saying for these guys out there, this is a question that you have to bring up, because when we're men, we think of one thing, and that's money. We go, okay, there's an opportunity here to make $100 an hour. Okay, that's cool for how long, for whatever it is, and make so many money. But now
some of these unions now, $100 is cheap.
Yes, yeah, and I mean, you could even make more, but what are you risking for that money? You know what I mean? And so I get it, Rombo. I've done it, man. I think you're doing great. Stay where you're at. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. And the money will come. I promise you.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things about it is that you can actually find jobs out there on Indeeds or whatever. It's a job thing. And I remember getting something for it, seeing something about, electricians, if you're willing to relocate or move or constantly going, you can get quite a bit, that type of thing. So if you're willing to do it, it's about, if you want to make, if you're young, hey, if you don't have a wife and kids, great. See it, get a chance to travel, go around. If you're somebody they like and they can send you to different projects, man, you can move up the ladder pretty quickly. You'll be that go-to person, and they can rely on you, and they'll send you somewhere. And if you do a really good job, next thing you know, you're leading projects. That's great. You can make great money. If you have a wife and kids, all I can tell you is, might sound great now, but it'll suck later. And I can totally tell you that from experience. So I spent most of my time on the road teaching for Eaton Cutler Hammer, or teaching for something, and spent most of my time around. And I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, if I could get that back, and I wouldn't travel near as much as I used to teach and do that kind of stuff, that type of thing. So I don't know,
Seth,
where.
Appreciate the tip, man.
Thanks, Seth. Appreciate it. I don't know where we were on this topic.
I think we're going into spinning the wheel. Hector, thank you so much for joining us tonight. If your apprentices want to take the courses, man, check out my link. That's my affiliation program. Obviously, Paul always gets kicked down. He's the man. I'm just trying to pick up some crumbs, brother. So help a brother out. You know what I mean?
He's just trying to get some crumbs. That's what he's doing.
Just trying to get some crumbs, But Great show tonight. I didn't know we were gonna go so deep into it, guys, and stay so late. But I appreciate you guys sticking with us.
I don't even know what the time is.
Hopefully we answered some of your questions as far as Adam asking if my prices have gone up. I did do a price increase going into the new year, and all last year I got to a certain point where I had to do price increases, and that's what we started doing. So I like to give my
Yeah, say Michael
contractors
asks,
three
Mike,
months,
what do you
but
charge? What do you
sometimes
charge?
it is what it is.
What do you charge per opening, Jay? Do you have any
It
competitors
just
on
depends
here?
on it just depends on what the opening is, whether it's a receptacle or a switch or a wafer. I would say for receptacles, yeah. I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't even do the pricing. My office staff does.
Well, what I do pricing per is that you got to cover the device, you got to cover the cover, you have to cover a wire, and usually set a specific length. And the easiest way that I used to tell people is base the amount of cable that you would need when you're doing per device based on what meets the minimum of code. So, 12 foot between is the maximum 12. So when I'm doing a box, every one I'm going to consider in 12 feet of like a non-metallic, right? And then of course, if you got like the real nice softwares like a Best Bid Hybrid Pro, then you can actually count staples in that, because then you know that you're going to have a staple every 4.5 feet. So you could plug all this stuff in it if you wanted to do it that way, right? And figure it all out in a cover plate, and then determine what your labor is it takes you to put it in. And remember that you got to put a rough end in, then you got to come and trim it out. So if you're going to give a price per outlet, you got to make sure that you're covering the rough end for that outlet, you're covering the trim out for that outlet. All of that is in that equation, and making sure that you're going to be able to cover all that. But like I said, I got it to where a software did it. And check out Best Bid Hybrid Pro. Tell him Paul sent you. Maybe he'll give you a discount or something. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, your prices better change. And I think we talked about that. If N&B prices went up as they have, and you've got bids out there, how do you approach a contractor and tell them, this was my price, but now look at the price has gone up since I gave you a price? Do you stick to your price, Jay, or do you go up? Do you just say I'm going up?
Well, I respect the contractor for one giving us multiple jobs. A lot of contractors I work with, they give us jobs throughout the whole year. I'm bidding these projects knowing that I have them. I'm not bidding them against other competitors. So for those guys, when I do a price increase and they go, "Hey Jay, just so you know, this job, and this job were in my bid on your last price sheet. Can we keep it that way?" And I'll say yes. I'll work with you. But after that certain job, any new jobs, please let me know, so then you can take on the new prices. And so again,
Sure.
I don't just demand it. I work with them because I understand that they've had sales months before we've even come to this project to start roughing it out. You know what I mean? So I give them that leeway in the sense of knowing that I don't want to take money away from them as well, but also know that any future jobs after that, I will increase my price. And most likely, it's like you said with the cable, it's not going to go down.
Yeah.
Some people say, "Oh, well, let me know when it goes back down." Yeah, never.
Yeah.
You're luckily it's not going up higher.
Well,
So,
our prices
you
at
know,
our prices at Encore change on a daily basis.
sure.
So the prices change. It's not. It could be not the same price the next day. It's not. It's based on copper, but copper prices change, but also the other material that's involved in it. So it constantly changes. So we have a meeting every morning talking about prices, and so it's not like, okay, something's 49. I mean, just an example, 49.95, and that's your price. My courses are $395. That's my price. Oh, but it fluctuates. No, that's the price. Not in our market. Okay. And Seth was asking, and we were talking residential for the boxes, because I would never do per outlet for commercial. I would never do a commercial job today back in the day when we did it, it was I have to basically do a takeoff on every little piece and price every little piece to do it, and then build in my margin from there, understand my burdens. I would never do a commercial project without a bidding software. Okay.
Yes,
That's right.
Price.
That's right.
Not today's price. Today's price is higher. I know what you're talking about. Oh, that's that Fat Joe, baby. And that is funny that he says that, because that was kind of I was walking around the house today saying that same thing, and that's funny. He says that. Always coming in clutch, man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, your courses are a certain amount of price, but when you look at the material, I think you can still have a set price in residential per opening and still make money without fluctuating it each day. Like I've told you, my biggest goal in 2022 is to cut cost anywhere I can. And if that means I have to get a quote from 7 different supply houses for one job, I'm going to get 7 different quotes for one job. And I'm going to go with probably the lowest person on that list. Actually, I'll probably go with whoever has the most and is the lowest. I'm not going to nickel and dime these things going, okay, I'm going to get receptacles from him, switches from him, plates from him, SCR from him. I don't really do all that, but I will compare like the bottom 2 or 3, and also compare who has what and get that material.
So it's easy to compare that, because cable's cable, right? 200 amp panels, 200 amp panel. You can price people out with things that are the same, and whoever's the cheapest, you just go with that, right? I used to get a lot of stuff from we get the supply house we go to, and back in Virginia we have X Supply, ECK is what we call it, X Supply. In Rexel, we go get stuff there. So yeah, we price it out, and we had access to their online. Even then, they were online, or once they got online as my company. When I left my brother and went into my own company, then by then, everything was online. You could get your prices and compare. If we're doing a big bidding project, or it had switch gear or something like that, we would send that ahead of time out and get prices on that. So we knew the prices. But it was nothing for me to run into and get something there was many occasions that the Home Depot or Lowe's, more often Lowe's than Home Depot, although you can play those two off of each other, because one will match the other one's price if you have a preference you like. But the contractor pricing used to be really good over at Lowe's. It was like 10% off, So, hey, Rombo, take care, buddy. I know you're working yourself to the bone there. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep getting at it.
Hey, see you, Rombo. Take care, brother.
Yep. So if I could get something cheaper, that just meant more margin for me. So even after my price, if I could get something cheaper, then that's just great. I mean, I was always trying to do that if I could. And if I could buy 4 or 5 200 amp disconnects and I knew I was going to use them, then I would buy them. If I could get a great deal on it, if I would say something to the customer desk, the contractor's desk, and I'd say, you know what's the best you can do? Believe it or not, they have the leeway to work with you a little bit. But everybody used to give me, I think there's some people would give me, some electricians would give me crap, and they'd say, dude, you got to support your local supply house. And I think with ours, I used to say, they're not local. They had offices in multiple states. They're all over. Their local state, maybe, but they're all over the places. Trust me, they're getting their share. I'm trying to get mine. That type of thing. So everywhere is different. What do we got to do? We got to do we got to do a turd. So let's go to a turd and look at the turd, and then we'll spin the wheel. Hopefully you have a list of all that.
I do.
All right. Here is our turd. Here is my turd. This was supplied. Jay sent this from our good electrician again, who always seems to come up with the nice ones here. Here we've got, which looks like to be, I guess that's a dryer. I can't even tell the configuration on it very well from here. But at any rate, it seems like they don't believe that you need to take the cable all the way to the box. We'll just run individual conductors like this, exposed, unprotected. And these conductors are required to be installed in a raceway or in a cable. And they obviously are not. And you got to wonder how long this...
They're taking advantage of the free air
trying to get
you can have when you free air it.
Oh yeah, that's what they're
So
doing.
that's what
Yeah,
they're doing there. It's just it's different. It's free airing in the wall. That's what we
it's
call, free air wall.
free air
Frawl.
wall for
They're
all. There you go.
they're
Yeah,
frawling it.
yeah. Well, I could joke with somebody, but I said at least it looks like they ran 4 conductors to it. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
right.
pre 84. They look like they ran 4 maybe, but they or maybe it's a box over on the right that we can't see, and they're just tapped off of it to go over to the left there, and they're like,
Right.
who needs a cable? I'll just run them exposed, that type of thing. So,
Right.
and then it looks like there's a wire that he used to tie it all up on the red one, just sitting there dangling on it.
Yeah. I don't know
But
what that one's doing there.
this was in the wall because you can see the gypsum dust on top of the box, and you can see at the front of the stud where they ripped it off, and the nail stayed in the stud. So somebody actually installed this like this, and there's no
Oh,
doubt
that's been in there for years. I
yeah,
mean, probably 20, 30, 40 years that's been inside that wall. I can guarantee it. Now they're doing
yeah.
a remodel, so they're just pulling all that uh gypsum board off, and there you go. It's so crazy. That's nuts. Now, let me ask you this: if you went back to do the remodel, would you use that same metal box right there? Or would you take it off the? Are you that cheap where you'd still use that same box if you could put a
If
receptacle there?
be honest with you, if I'm doing the whole remodel, all that's coming out. I'm just saying it's all coming out. So yes, that is a single gang with device near that typically, depending on the clearance you have on it in that box, typically we'd see that on a 2-gang box, but it's all in there. What is it in Austin? They leave it like it is.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say. They'll leave it like it is,
They're
man. Some
like,
people are like
hey,
that, dude. They'll just leave the
hey,
existing
I
boxes
just
there.
leave it there. So they're
Contractors
like,
be like,
hey.
just leave that box there, man. Take off half that cost for that opening. Just reuse it. What?
Yeah, O says it needs to be secure within 8 inches. Now that box probably has a built-in internal clamp, so you could go up to 12 inches. But since the fact of the matter is that that's all individual like that, then that 8 inches is not even going to save them. And you know what? Maybe he has that little black tie wrap that's on it. Maybe that was his. Maybe that was his support there. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a support.
Yeah. So it's again being a turd, being as an electrician. Could you even imagine? So we have to say this is Harry homeowner, because I'm going to say that I typically wouldn't expect an electrician to do something like this, but when you go onto some of those platforms and look at some of the stuff that people post with extreme pride, like the latest one that I look at is the Search Hounds or Trade Hounds. It's called Trade Hounds. You go look at some of the stuff that they post, and they're very proud of it. And you're like, dude, did you not take a look at that before you posted that? Really? You're proud of that, but you posted that? Unless they're posting a turd like we're doing here, that type of thing. Yeah, Robert says you reuse that box. Yeah, the general contractor be like, hey man, I noticed your bill. I didn't see no deduction for this box that you used. That box was existing.
Right. It was already there, bro.
You go rip that off and give it to him. Here's your box, buddy. I'm not going to use that box. Now, could you use the box again? I'm not sure I'd use it for this application, but again, you can reuse the box again if you want.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the spin the wheel. Again, this turd is courtesy of electri.shan. And
okay, let me pull up my...
where is that at, Jay? Where do you get most of these from? Is this from Instagram?
Yeah, that's from
is this a guy?
Instagram.
This is a guy on there that always seems to have a good collection of turds.
Yeah, I don't know where he gets all this stuff, but he has a great collection of them, and he even does like a thing on his profile where you can go in and click the link and go to like a website and buy.
He's got his own turd section.
Design on them. Yeah, he's got his own turd section.
He's got his own turd section. All right.
Yeah, you can buy turds from him.
You can buy turds from him. All right, let's spin the wheel. All right, who we got
first
first?
one today is Chris Lightsey with a $5 donation. He's probably sleeping. This guy's dreaming about getting on the iron, so I will let him know.
Screwdriver.
Chris Lightsey, screw driver.
Can always, even an iron worker can use a screwdriver. All right.
Oh, believe me.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. No comment. All right. Next.
No comment. Schwartzy.
Schwartzy's probably not feeling good.
My little one hasn't been feeling good for like the last 4 days, man. Poor little one. LED light. All right.
LED light. All
right, next, Aaron goes twice for the $49.99, and then he did a $9.99 for his little nephew getting a job. So
there you go.
The support.
Oh, no way.
Oh
no. That doesn't count. Why do we even add that on the wheel if I'm going to skip it? Or stickers. I probably will hold off on those because I have a new batch of stickers on some new designs that I've got coming out in the next month or two.
All right, so I'll put new design on.
Yeah, you probably want to wait for those because those are going to be cooler designs that I've got coming out.
We'll get you a kicking it with the king one too. How about that, Aaron? We'll get you a kicking it with the king one here soon. I'm gonna have those ones specifically on my headphones like Paul does for his. You have yours. I'm gonna have my two kick.
These outdated ones here that say Electrician Live. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next.
I should do one kicking it with the king and one electrify. That'd be pretty sick. You know.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool. And he stickers again.
Okay, so we're going to give him definitely a double sticker pack there.
Okay, and some sticker pack, some sticker times too.
And some miscellaneous goodies. All right,
Mr. Next. Seth with the big $10 make you holla. Spin the wheel for Seth, man. Seth, you've been commenting all night, man. We really do appreciate you. Get the LED light tonight.
Cool. Let's see here, we got the
LED light. That is it for the giveaways. So.
All right, so let's bring it back to us here. All right, so the takeaway for tonight, there's many ways to do it. Some people will do, again, if you're lucky enough, if you can get a time and material, which we didn't really talk about, then you get your time. And some people love that. Where they just getting material, and the question is whether or not you're giving the material to them straight and you're just making money on your time, or you're going to get any markup on your material. That's a thing that you need to sort out. So it'd be time and material with a margin on the material, but you're getting paid your time. Then you have to determine what your time is worth, and then make sure that your time also covers any pertinent burdens that you might have: insurances, gas, vehicle. Permitting, if you're pulling it, all those things, just make sure you're getting covered for that. And then material, I would say again, even in that time and material, I would try to get at least 15%, 10 to 15%, depending on the size of the job, of markup, that type of thing. All right. So I would try to do that. If you're going to go by square footage, make sure that you have a good idea of a square footage that makes you some money first. Okay, because you're going to have to scale that down. So my advice, if you're doing square footage, one thing to do is go back and look. If you want an easier way to do it, go back and look at a project you did, look at what you made, look at what the cost is you charged, base it on the size of that unit that you did, and then simply do some multiplication to find out what it breaks down to per square foot. And that would be for that size of a project. Then take that number and try it for a smaller project and see what number you come up with, and then look at it because you know you're going to use less material. And then look at it and see if you can live with that. But remember, that might price you out of some jobs. Okay. So, because it's a smaller project. And then some people that do the little small spec stuff anyway, they're barely making any money. I know a contractor here in Texas who does a lot of these spec homes. And he's like, Paul, I don't make any money off of residential. My brother used to say that. And we used to say that we really don't make any money off residential if you're competitive. It wasn't until we got the bigger homes that we made money. It wasn't until I got the first 7,000 or 8,000 square foot house that I did for this guy that owns the subdivisions. When I started doing his big houses, then when I was knocking down $29,000, $30,000 for a dwelling, then you were doing okay, right? And that was back then. So the square footage wouldn't work. When I went to his, I had everything in the software, and I knew the margins I was going to get and everything, and my burdens and my overheads and all, and I plugged it in to make sure that I covered all that. And then I had my fudge factor, again, just in case. And I knew what I wanted. Only you can decide what you want, what you got to have. But then you got to worry about whether or not somebody else is going to outbid you. And then some people, my brother used to say, I don't care. This is my price. This is what I'm bidding. If you don't like it, my work stands for itself. And he got a lot of the work because my brother does really good work. And so you can get a little more. And I was like that before the 2007 hit. And that's when the contractor that used to just give me everything and I had tons of work going on, that's when they said, yeah, Paul, can you give us a price? And I went, what? You've never asked me for a price before. I always take care of you, right? And then he goes, yeah, well, times are getting a little tighter and I need to get a price. Well, I probably smelt something coming then, because within about a year and a half after that, he went bankrupt and lost everything. And it was a huge subdivision. So, and I was trying to think of the name of that subdivision because his family has subdivisions all over the country. And he moved to the Harrisonburg area and he was going to build this big, and I can't remember his name. But anyway, he went belly up, and I got out of it a year before that. So, what else? Per box, if you're going to do it per outlet, then you need to do the same thing. You need to understand what your costs are. And one good way to do this, to get practice of this, is to sit down and do a 2,500, 1,500, what are the size houses you usually used to do? Now, on commercial, I don't know how you can do that, because in commercial, there's so many pieces involved in that. You just got to have a bidding software. It's too many things that you'll forget. I don't know how anybody could actually ever do. I mean, you could still do it per outlet, but then you got to factor in the conduits or the tubings and the conductors and the labor to pull it in. You got to cover the straps. I've never done it without a software. Now, old school folks did takeoffs, and they'll literally write down every little thing and then get a price for every little thing. Okay. And they have to do this on a drawing. They literally will take everything off and put it in a takeoff list. Luckily for me, I never had to do that. I'm not from that generation where I had to do that. I at least had access to a computer. Might have been a Commodore 64, because that was the first computer that we had as our company computer, was a Commodore 64 with a floppy drive. And then we used to do our invoices and all on this old archaic software. But different ways to do your bidding. Just find what's comfortable for you. But I can tell you right now, for example, that Best Bid Hybrid Pro, if I'm doing residential or I'm doing light commercial, it would probably be and you wanted to take off the ease of bidding, probably one of the best investments you'll ever make, and it's one of the cheapest out there, right? And so he has the NECA manual. Absolutely. I actually still have one of those. That was the way you did it. The problem with that is that labor value in there, those labor units, didn't necessarily equate to everywhere the same in the country. So you had to fudge it a little bit. But yeah, I had that NECA book, and we would use that for some projects that really weren't worthy of putting it in any software. We would do something like that. But that's an art in itself to using that, the NECA's hourly unit type of book as well. So yeah, it's an art to it, but now it's gotten so much easier. So again, folks, different ways to do it. Just make sure if you're doing it per outlet, you have an idea of what you want to make and what the project's going to be before you start trying to break it down to what it is per an outlet. So it's easy to do, Jay, for like a recess, because you can look at a recess can, what it costs, determine the lamp, determine the trim, determine what you want to get labor. And some people say, I mean, we used to get the recess cans for like $15.99 a can. I don't remember what they are today, but even the recess cans. And remember I told you I was buying all those from this one place? We were getting the lamp, the trim, and the can for one price. So we could do 125 per recess, that type of thing. And I think today they'd probably do a lot more than that. Okay. Michael says, can you do liens on the properties when you do the contracts? You know what? I never had to do a mechanics lien on anybody. I never had a problem with getting paid. But you can, if you in every state, you should have a contract for every work. Jay, I'm sure you get a contract for everything you do, right?
Yeah, so we have a contract that we send them. Again, most of my contractors now, I've been working with for the past few years. So when they send me a project, like I told you guys, I know I have it. They just want to bid on it just in case things
Right.
fluctuate. And a lot of times it's really just bringing myself or my project manager out to the job site before we get into the actual stage of work, because I might see something that they didn't put in their bid. So I'm kind of their buffer. And like for example, I go to a remodel and maybe their main panel's already full. So I'm like, all right, well, we have two options here. We either do a full blown upgrade to give you proper spaces, or we add a subby bra somewhere. And so, I kind of going like that. But as far as other ones, I've dealt with some crappy contractors, dude, to where I've never done a mechanical lien, but I've threatened them to do a mechanical lien. And it seems like that and just a couple other little areas I push them in, and I seem to always usually get most of my money that they owe me. So
only time I came close on one, and a friend of mine was an attorney, and I had him I said, dude, can you just write me a legal letter to send to them? And he did, signed it, as our attorney, and the people promptly paid. But what I will tell you is that if you're out there doing work that is not service work, but doing work and you're doing it with a shake in the hand, at some point you're going to get screwed. Okay. Most states require a contract. So whether you're wiring somebody's basement or you're wiring an $8 million home or whatever it is, most states, I know Virginia does, and I know Texas, you have to have a contract. And we're not talking about going out and doing service work. We're talking about if you bid on a project, then you have to have a contract that stipulates the rights and everything involved in it, when you expect the work to be started and to completed and all that kind of stuff. And you can be pretty open with what you put on there, but you got to meet certain criteria. And in Virginia, there's like 7 or 8 or 9 steps that you have to have on a contract. I'm not saying that's the way it is in every state, but I would think that for protection of the consumer, most of you that are out there that I still know, Johnny Blow that works out the truck is wiring houses in a subdivision. He probably not getting contracts on every one of those houses. Once he starts them, they're saying he's just moving from house to house to house, right? I got a contract. Even way back in the day, I had a contract for everything. No matter who I did work for, I had a contract protecting me. I was just saying.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you're at the end of the day, it's your word versus theirs, and you've already done the work, and now some people are like that, man. You got to be careful.
Yeah, I think my brother has had 1 or 2 jobs where he's eaten it. It wasn't worth the grief to go it. He tried. He could have gone to court. And my brother's a real passive guy anyway, sweetheart of a guy, but he's real passive. I'm not. I'll spend my last dime to sue you if I have to. I mean, I'll sue myself into bankruptcy. Not my brother. He'll just kind of say, all right, I've lost it. I've had it with trademarks and things like that. If somebody wants to come after me, they better have deep pockets, because I'll sell everything. I'll sell the house. I'll sell everything. I'll sell my kids. I'm going to sue you, and I'm going to keep on and going until it's over with. That's just me. I love court, and I've been in court a lot, and I've represented myself as expert witness in court and other people. I don't have any problem with it. So I'd rather sue until we're either you don't have any money or you can't get blood out of a turnip, but I don't have no problem suing, and I'll sue in a heartbeat. So, but he doesn't. He's like, I'll just write that off. And I'm like, not me.
No way, man.
Not me. It don't take nothing to file a lawsuit today. So I'll file it if I have to. Now, I'm not going to file it because I'm a Karen, or I'm not going to file it because my feelings get hurt or somebody offends me. But you messing with my money, you messing with my emotions, Smokey. So,
messing with it, bro.
Messing with my emotions, you messing with my money. I'm just saying. All right. Anyway, I think that's all we've got for tonight. I don't know how long we've been because I don't have a clock on anywhere and I can't see the timer, but it's been a great show. Just having a discussion. That's what Electrify is all about. If you want to get into code, then again, we will have those sessions coming out, and all the videos and stuff that I do are only available now to my subscribers and members. And Big Perm, yeah, you remember. What is that? What was that movie? It's Friday, wasn't it? It was called Friday.
Friday, yeah.
Messing with my money is messing with my emotions, Smokey. And that guy's dead now, isn't he? The big guy? He's the guy with the eye. I think he died. Didn't he? I think he died. I think he's gone. Anywho, that's it. Hope everybody had a great New Year's, and we will see you again next week and have another great topic. Again, if you have any topics you want us to have, feel free to send us to hosts at electricianlive.com, because Electrify is a show that is supported by Electrician Live Broadcast Network, where you will be getting Kicking It with the King podcast coming up. And if you have a show and you want to host on there, there's a form you fill out on there. Follow the details, and we will host your show for you. But anything you want to add in closing? I don't know how we didn't get any. I do have a guy that I can bring on our show that is an expert in bidding, because he writes the software and he owns the company and he writes books on the deal. So, but that's the guy for the Best Bid Hybrid Pro. So you can go check that out again at Best Bid Hybrid Pro. I don't get commissions off of it, but go check it out. Just Google it. Best Bid Hybrid Pro, flat out, cost wise, feature wise. You're not paying the big boys for their name. It is jam packed with features, and they're easy to use. That's the other neat thing about it. And it does integrate with all those pay systems that you can, find out what the pricing is for everything and all that. Okay. So Net Pricer or whatever it is, it all integrates with all that type of stuff. And it's really cheap. It's not that expensive of software, which you would think. Price it with somebody like McCormick and Con S and all those today, and you'd be quite shocked. And the guy's got an actual tutorial thing as well to teach you that type of stuff. Okay. So, all right. Anything else you want to give in closing, Jay? Or did I already do that? I already did that? Nothing? Okay.
We'll see you guys next week.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week for another show here at Electrify. Till then, stay safe. God bless. You've been listening to Electrify with your hosts Paul Abernathy and Jay, the Basement King Grunberg.